I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say new year, new me, because that would suggest that something was wrong with the old me. And I'm not ready for that conversation. But what I am ready for is to come back to YouTube. So let's get into it. I'm sure you've heard this from other YouTube creators, but I'm gonna say it as well. If you've ever spent a long extended break away from YouTube, especially if you're used to posting regularly, it can feel so difficult to come back to it. I know I was putting all this pressure on myself, to come back with a video that was incredible. Like, it had to be amazing to make up for all the time that I spent missing. And I'm not even sure if anyone's still interested in this channel other than like the 5 people that reached out to me on TikTok and Instagram asking if I was ever gonna post again. But I'm still interested in this channel, and I did want to kind of share what I've been up to, what I've been doing. And I thought the best way to do that would be to go through all the rolls of film that I shot in 2023. So I didn't shoot a ton of film last year, but enough that I can kind of go through the progression of the year. We can talk about the film stocks I used, what I was up to, what I was doing. So let's get into my film binder. Starting with the very first film roll of 2023. This is a roll of Fujifilm Superia Extra 400 shot on my Zoom Date 110 EZ. So it's my point and shoot. Some of these are flash, and these are all from a New Year's Eve party that our friends threw. I remember really enjoying myself at this party because our friends, they invited a bunch of their family members. I don't think we went to sleep until 3 a.m. And I told myself after this party that I was going to take some time off. At the end of 2022, we were grieving a lot. We had ended up losing our dog in the beginning of November, and I thought I could fill the void of sadness by keeping busy. So I took on a lot of freelance work at the time, and that just led to the worst burnout ever. I really took that to heart because the next few photos of this aren't until April. I feel like I had lost the ability to see beauty in any of my life. We had taken a trip to Kansas City, and when we were there, the flowers were in bloom, the sun was shining, and it was the first time that I had felt something in so long. So you can see that I'm starting to regain that sense of, seeing beauty in life again during this little trip that we took. And then at the end of this roll, this is when we adopted our dog, Java, at the beginning of May. We did not think we were going to be getting another dog this soon, honestly, but the spring was all about new beginnings for us, and there was also a feeling that was missing in our home. So we started looking for dogs at nearby shelters, and we ended up finding the cutest little dachshund mix. She's the sweetest, most playful dog ever, and we love her. This next roll of film from May was a total fail. This is Kodak Ultramax 400 shot on my Nikon EM, and I hadn't realized there was a roll of film in my camera already, so I opened it with the intention of loading it, and I ended up exposing a bunch of the photos in here. So a bunch of them are blanks, have light leaks on them. The weather at the time was also not ideal. It was a very overcast and gloomy day that I decided to shoot. I was really determined to take some photos of our new dog. However, I didn't account for how fast she was going to be, so that moment was very difficult to capture. And towards the end of the roll, I meant to photograph a family trip that I had taken to Solvang to celebrate Mother's Day and my dad's birthday, but somehow my camera ended up jamming, and so I ended up with very little photos from that trip, at least on film, and then one crazy multiple exposure shot. It's kind of interesting, but completely unintentional. From the end of May to June, I have 3 different film rolls. And that time period was really dedicated to the friendships in my life. The whole winter I had spent sulking, and I really felt like I had neglected spending quality time with my friends, so I wanted to make more of an effort at the beginning of the summer. So there's a few memories from a hike that we took in Laguna Beach. I did a bar crawl with my brother totally not my scene, but definitely a bonding moment. And our friends hosted a dinner to kick off the summer. Here's a couple photos that Raleigh had snapped of just the girls because the guys never want to be in the pictures. But the end of this roll has a few photos from a trip to Joshua Tree that we took to celebrate a friend's 30th birthday. It was my first time ever going, and we ended up renting this insane house, so that was a really fun way to experience it for the first time. I have a roll of Kodak Portra 400 shot on our Minolta, and then a roll of Kodak Ektar shot on my point and shoot. Some of my favorites on the Portra roll are of the golden hour light, and there's a vintage car that was parked right in front of the house that we were renting. But there's something that's just so special about Kodak Ektar 100 rolls for me. The saturation for this film stock is very high, so the colors are always so vivid, and the grain is just so fine. So these are my favorites from that trip. For July, I only have one roll of film from that time period, and I spend most of the month with my family. I'm usually much more conservative when I shoot film when I'm with them because they're not really big on taking pictures. But this was probably the best month of the year for me emotionally. My brother and sister ended up staying in my apartment for a week, and we decided we were gonna have the best summer ever. We spent a lot of time just hanging out. We went to Disneyland, and we spent so much time at the beach, I can't even tell you. It was very sad when they went back to their own homes. Beginning of August, we took a ferry to Catalina Island with my in-laws to celebrate my mother-in-law's birthday. We usually try to go there every year because she loves it so much. It's kind of a tradition for us. I really did not think I'd get to shoot much film on this trip because we weren't staying there that long, but there must have been something about the vibes because I went through a whole test roll of Lomachrome Color 92. I hadn't gone through a roll of film this fast in so long. I was feeling so inspired. The only thing is that I hadn't realized how coarse the grain on this film stock is. Another photographer recommended rating this at ISO 100 instead of box speed, and I really wish I would have done that because while I love the composition of most of these, the exposure is just not the best. It looks very underexposed. End of August, I celebrated my birthday with a glamping trip with my siblings, and this is a roll of Portra 400. We rented this random camping spot with a dome tent in San Diego County, and we had it all to ourselves. Spent most of the time relaxing, but we also did some hiking, swam in the swimming holes, and it was a very peaceful birthday. I have really good memories of this. Most of September, I actually ended up spending it at home because I got COVID again. I didn't feel too sick, but I was confined to the apartment mostly, and I was also doing more remote work for a marketing agency at the time. So I only have a few shots to share of a roll of Portra 800. The theme song for that month was definitely In My Room by the Beach Boys. I think I did a reel or a TikTok on it. So that was the inspiration for this roll until I was able to go outside. October. So October and November were insanely busy work months for me. So I only have one roll of film of Superia, and that's for my grandmother's 90th birthday party. I was in charge of making the photo slideshow, and I also took some time to look through old camcorder footage my parents had so I could make a video for my family to watch. And then the day of the party, I just wanted to capture as much of my family as I could. My cousin also shot all the photos of me in them. That's all I have from October, and then November I didn't shoot any film at all. Second to last film roll is a roll of Portra 400, and this was all shot in Big Bear, California. It was my brother's birthday, and all he said he wanted to do was chill in a cabin, so we rented one out and spent our days there. The weather was still too warm for us to get any snow, which was a bit of a bummer, but the scenery was still really beautiful. The cabin was super cozy, the light was incredible, and my brother said he had a great time, which really was all I wanted. Last roll of film is Superia again, shot on my Zoom date, and I think that's actually the last roll of film for that camera. It's actually not doing so well, so we might have to replace that. But this actually goes from New Year's Eve to New Year's Day, so I'm just gonna focus on the New Year's Eve photos. But we spent it again with our friends, and this is probably the best New Year's that I've had in years. My friend had the idea for us to make vision boards for 2024, and it was such a great time. I had never made one before, but I'm thinking of maybe making it a tradition. I loved it so much, but I'm really happy to have these photos. Well, that is going to be it for all the film that I shot in 2023. I hope you enjoyed reviewing a year of film with me. Happy 2024, and I will see you in the next one.